Go. All right, here we are for another show. Happy Friday, everybody. And welcome to our panel today. We have Priscilla, John, and Dave joining us. Dave, straight from the airport,
That's right.
which he must have been sitting on the front of the plane because he was able to get off that plane pretty quick. So good for you, Dave. Good move.
It's good to be here. Great to be here.
Awesome.
Where are you coming from, Dave?
New York.
New York.
New York.
Favorite spot.
Last time I was there was for your event, so that was some good memories, John.
For sure. Sorry, yeah. Brad. I'm interrupting already. Sorry. Back to it.
And I know it's all good. I mean, especially if you were trying to call out Dave for not visiting you. I mean, that would have been some good content right there.
Next time.
Cool. Well, this is going to be a really great show. We're doing a topic of today's show is 2024, a year in review, all things customer success. So we're just going to have a really good conversation. For those who are new to the show, if you want to send us a comment in, your comment might be displayed. If you want to ask a question to the panel, to Priscilla, Dave, or John, feel free to. We might bring it up. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of Success Panda housekeeping, which is in 2025, lots of big things are going to be rolling out. We're going to have technologies. So we're going to be rolling out all the technologies. We're going to be trying to list all those. And then most importantly, we are going to have some surprise pricing for all of our for all the people, because we want to help all the people we can, so better watch out for that. So a lot of cool stuff that's going to be coming in Success Panda. Just follow us on our LinkedIn page to learn more. And if you don't have an account, you can sign up for a free account, successpanda.io. And now panel time, intros. So welcome. Let's start with the ladies first, or lady. So Priscilla, if you want to give us a intro of who you are, then we'll go to Dave and John.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Nice to meet you. Hi, everyone. I'm based in New York City, but today I'm joining from Florida. So escaped the cold below 20s this week and came to Florida. I'm the founder of Latinos in Success. I'm also a business consultant. I help founders build their customer success strategy for their business. And I'm also running the community where we have lots of fun things for Latinos in tech and customer success. And that's me.
Awesome.
Hey, everyone. Dave Blake, founder and CEO of Client Success. We're a leading customer success platform. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me, Brad. It's good to be with Priscilla and John, and looking forward to the discussion today.
Awesome. Good to see you both. And my name's John Gleason. I'm the founder and general partner at Success VP. Success VP is a venture firm. It's a value add venture firm. And so basically what we do is we generally come alongside, a tier one lead, and we support that founder with everything that they need for their post-sales journey. So there's this huge gap between founder-led sales when you get your first customer and when you eventually hire for customer success at Series A. We fill that gap. We offer support for those founders. Our LPs are, I guess, as of today, when I refreshed, 89 of the best VPs and CCOs in Silicon Valley when it comes to customer success. So they also roll up their sleeves to support these portfolio companies. Been at it for about a year now, so honored to be here. Oh, and I also host the Customer Success Meetup in San Francisco and New York City.
There you go. The one in New York City, I will say, when I saw Priscilla in person for the first time, her first thing was not, "Hi, Brad," but, "Wow, you're taller than I thought." So I made sure that verified that, which, by the way, John is the tallest. When I saw John, I was like, wow, John is very tall. So I couldn't miss John. They're like, oh, there he is. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Dave's pretty tall too, though. Dave, like you must be like 6'3".
I'm 6'2". I'm getting up there. 6'1", 6'2".
All right.
there you go. Yeah, Dave's tall too. So Priscilla's off her game now because she can't tell who's short and who's tall. But
Oh, I know. I saw all of you there, so I know who's taller.
I know,
Hey, and we're gonna be back. We're booked October 6th, 2025. I know we're talking about 2024, but we'll all be back next year. And we might do
That's
it pretty
great.
bigger. We're thinking about 2 days, so that'll be pretty cool.
Congrats.
No, I mean,
that's exciting.
I mean, I've been to several events. Like your event was great, John. I mean, it was my first time, but I was like, this definitely exceeded my expectation. It was a great event, great event. And I know Dave, their company has a great event too, which I need to eventually get out.
Yeah,
to Utah.
CS100 Summit in September next year.
There you go.
I want to get out to that at some point. You've been
know.
Yeah, can
asking
we
me
go?
for
Can you
years,
invite us
Dave,
too?
and
All
I
right,
need to make it happen.
Let's do a redo of this at the CS100 Summit next September. We'll all gather, do it again.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, I think this year there was a conflict with SaaStr, I think, right?
Yes, that's what it was. We had SaaStr at the same time. I was kind of offended that SaaStr scheduled it then. I was hoping they would change it, but it didn't work out this year.
Well, you know what? So this year we're gonna do SaaStr again. So Jason asked us to do SaaStr again, and it's in May. So no conflict this year. September is clear. As long as Benioff is gentle on Dreamforce, I think we're gonna be good. You have some sway with Benioff, don't you?
Yeah, I'll give him a ring after this. No excuses. I want to see you all there.
Awesome.
That's cool. No, yeah, there's so many good events, and that's why one of the reasons I started Success Panda, because all the things that I was just experiencing as a CS leader myself, I'm like, oh, what are all the events coming up in 2023? Wait, there is none. Where are all the communities like listed out? Where are they all aggregated? It's like all these things kind of exist in Slack channels, bifurcated. You got to know where they're at. But aggregating together all the things. So let's jump in. 2024. All right. So at the beginning of the year, I know it was AI was all the rage, but let me get everybody's temperature behind that, because every event that I went to, AI was kind of talked about at every single one. And so Priscilla, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to John and then Dave. But what do you think about, did AI make its emergence in 2024? Did it deliver? Was it overhyped? I mean, what are you seeing in the wild? What's your experience been in 2024 with AI?
I mean, it was like talked in all of the events that we joined everywhere. But I think, at least for me, I did see more changes this year than the previous years. Actually, companies implementing that and reducing like workforce because of AI, which is something that we didn't really see that in the years before, which AI was in the picture already. But this year, I've talked to a lot of founders, a lot of people working in teams where their teams were reduced because they were able to implement some type of AI technology, whether in the support org or the customer success organization. So I think implementation was a big thing this year. A lot of teams took more risks with AI and decided to really dive in and jump and learn more, which is good. Um, I think the only thing, the gray area of AI for me, which I still see it with a lot of CSMs and a lot of founders, is that thing like, um, is AI going to replace a lot of people, or is just here as another tool to make things better, right? So, it's opposed to like, is AI taking my job? Where do I sit here? How do I navigate all this changes here? I was at a Harvard Business School conference this year, and they were talking about that as well. And one of the things that came out was how the phone changes. Remember when we went from the phone evolution, from a person transferring you from somebody else and pressing the buttons. That took probably 100 years to like really like, okay, now we
Hold on,
definitely don't
Priscilla.
need a
I'm
person.
a laggard. I still use phone support from time to time. So I'm glad I'm 100 years behind, but continue.
Yeah, but that was like that kind of blew my mind how like the pace that we're talking about here in AI, right? Like how things are changing much faster in healthcare in so many different industries. How much faster this is changing than many other things that took like years to really take off. That's like that's a very interesting fact in my mind. I'm always thinking about it like how fast is this going? And in a matter of months, we're like making big jumps. But I think it's a good thing. I think I take it as a extra tool. I don't see it as like this is taking my job. I see this as like as a helper for so it will save me time to do the strategic work, not take my job.
Nice. What about you, John? What are you thinking? How did AI pan out in 2024?
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's so many threads to pull on there, but maybe like to riff on what Priscilla was saying. I think in very similar terms to you. Actually, I was reflecting. My friend Rex Woodbury, who has a new venture fund, he actually writes a really good blog on kind of the future of things, and he ties it back to macro trends and historics, and has some really good data in there. A while back, he wrote a post, and it was on AI, and it was on that exact same subject that Priscilla was talking about. But what about my job? And he used the example actually in his story. It wasn't, connecting, the operator connecting people. It was on silent movies. And, you used to go to a movie, let's say in the 1920s, and there would be a band. There would be a band pit, and they would play the music. And when movies started to have sound, everybody said, oh, but like, what about the band? And then, you look at movies now and there's hundreds of people who work on a production. And I just think like, if you think about like people want to be busy. People want to have purpose. And, in CS, sometimes like we implement tools for our team and we're like, oh, it's going to give them all their time back. They're not going to, have to do the grunt work. And yet people find a way to fill a day. And I like to think with AI, it's going to open up things to do that maybe we've, spent less time on. I always feel like we're not going to sit idle. That's not, I don't think in human nature, at least for the type of people that we all are and we like to deal with, we deal with doers. And I think, as you take one thing off of a doer's plate, they find another way to be productive. So I think AI is going to just continue to like amplify the service that we can give our customers. And there's going to be growing pains in that for sure. And, sometimes, maybe some jobs will go away, but I always think that when something goes away, something new springs up. And so I think like maybe that was the theme of this year that I saw too. Going into the year, people were very apprehensive still. It was like, how do I do this in a way that's inside the bounds of, governance in my business, through to the end of the year where people are implementing things. You're hearing anecdotal feedback from CSMs that, yeah, this is making my life better. I can do more with this tool. So overall, I would say like, it's probably like a year of maybe enlightenment. Like if you think about like the Gartner curve, I would say like there was moments where we were in the trough of disillusionment, and I think we're climbing out of it now and we're starting to see some real productivity. So I'm fired up.
Nice. I agree. Dave.
Yeah, I think what an exciting time it is to be in tech and in general and customer success. Related to AI, earlier this year, I wrote an article that I called The New Era of Customer Success. It's the AI first era. I called it Customer Success 5.0. And where we will start to infuse AI into everything. I think that's not a short period of time. It's an evolution over many years, but we're in the early stages of it. And I think the potential is significant, as Priscilla and John have said. I don't think it's going to completely wipe out jobs like people are afraid of. what I think it will do in customer success is, as has been alluded to, is it'll allow CSMs to do what they do best, which is engage in a consultative way with their customers. So instead of like tactical, I'm taking notes, I'm following up with these items, I'm doing these things, it will allow kind of to get all of that, what I call non-value added activities off the CSM's plate, and allow them to really focus in and be much more consultative. So I think it's a shift to consultative success that we're going to see as AI comes to the forefront in the coming years. But super exciting, and I love seeing the early advancements and the early experimentation that across the industry.
Yeah, and you know what? Like one of the things that like we even see, like all of us are community builders, all of us are people, and that's what customer success people are. Like we love that human interaction, and I just don't think like we're going to replace that. Like at each of our events that we hosted this year, I would say there was more people who showed up with more energy than ever before. And I think in a world where like, you know, we're behind a screen 90% of the time, we're meeting on Zoom, maybe some of the grunt work is going away. What you said, Dave, it's like we can put the people on the forefront of doing, you know, business with people on the other side. And man, maybe that's the holy grail. Maybe that's like what we've all longed for so long, right?
Yeah. Since I'm at the airport and just got off a Delta flight, I'll use an example. I was going to London with my family earlier this year and had my flight canceled from Salt Lake City to London. And it was cool I like to watch B2C companies because I feel like they're a little bit more on the bleeding edge versus B2B. And it was cool to see, at least my experience with Delta in that was like all of this stuff kick in. And you saw a lot of digital customer success, right, happening. I got notifications on my phone. I got a food voucher for the time I was in here. So all this digital customer success came in. But really what made the biggest impact for me was like the agent at the gate who was like doing everything he can to like get me and my family on this next flight and holding the flight back to where they actually came out and they're like, hey, I'm sorry, we got to shut the gate. And the other agent down at customer service, it was that a human experience wrapped with the digital experience and if you would say the AI experience that really made the experience for me, that made it an extraordinary experience. And so that's what I would say is like the human experience isn't going to go away. It just will allow us to have these impactful, meaningful experiences through humans.
Man, if anything, the human experience almost like elevates, right?
Yeah.
It becomes more important.
Yeah, because you have time to do that. You can focus on like, hey, I've got all this other stuff taken care of. Let me just connect with this person. Let's understand their needs and let me deliver for them that extraordinary experience.
Yeah, I love all that. I remember I had a post. It was just a LinkedIn post that I wanted to share, which is about, I had read these books. I read a book called Surprise and then The Power of Moments. Both books I recommend. Both about basically engineering peak moments, right? And I feel like for me, when I look out and I see the AI tools that exist, like you said, like both Dave and John and Priscilla even said this, where it was just like, if we're having the grunt work take over, I think one of the things that we as individual contributors or people who are just like, you know, working in middle management or ICs, one of the things you have to be able to come to the table with is like, if you're not doing your grunt work, right, because that's now been replaced and what used to take you 4 hours now takes 5 minutes, right? Do you have the next generation of skills within your toolkit to add value to the customer journey? And one of the things that I've thought about is we've all seen on LinkedIn or different companies where it says the different phases of their customer journey, right? You know, pre-sales, implementation, onboarding, adoption, expansion, renewal, and it might show, you know, things that go on through there. But I think customer journeys in the future are going to be mapped to emotion, right? Because they're already doing that. We're kind of getting past the technical, say digital, that'll still be an important part, like Dave said, but you're sitting around in meetings and we're discussing, John and his team or Dave and his team discussing what peak moments are we going to engineer when people come to our event or when people come and ingest our product, right? And so I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity for us to understand how we're going to be engineering peak moments as customer success managers, both with our customers and also our internal teams. So I think the work just changes as opposed to, pressing the button, making sure that this email gets sent to this cohort of users and doing things like that. So to me, I like that type of strategy and work, which is probably why I started something like I did. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? About engineering customer journeys on emotion and creating peak moments?
Okay, one of the things that I think a lot about, or maybe a shift, like the 2024 shift that I saw, and I'm curious, like Priscilla and Dave, to get your thoughts on this. But I actually feel like CS leaders are almost shifting away from, like, there used to be this almost sentiment that you would feel where people were very dogmatic in how they delivered customer success, right? They would, cling to the playbook that was in a blog and a client success post or a Gainsight post or a Tatango post. And that was how it's done. And if you're deviating from that, then like you're doing customer success wrong. And I think people are starting to say, you know what, let's take this, everything that comes after that initial sale, let's take it back to like first principles, right? And let's think about what is the right way to build this for our customers. I talked to a lot of Stripe is known as being a great first principles thinking company. And I spent a lot of time with customer success leaders there over the years. And the things that they're doing for their customers, sometimes it looks almost different than what the standard CS playbook is. And I actually feel like there's this shift in the CS world where people are okay moving away from hey, here's how it's done, here's how it's supposed to be done, and here's how it should be done for my customer. I think even some of the data around CS sliding into the CRO role or sliding into product, people might interpret those as, oh, that's bad for the profession of customer success. In some ways, it's we're orienting this around where the needs of the business are, where the needs of our customer at this moment. And however we can resource that in the best way is okay. Still a half-baked thought, but yeah, curious, David and Priscilla, if you're seeing similar things.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I'm the one always constantly thinking about the customer experience. And as a customer success manager, you have to have the ability to sit in different chairs. One day you need to sit in the investor chair, and the other day you have to sit in the customer chair. You have to have the ability to make the shifts. You cannot just sit in the CSM chair and just assume I have to do things the way we do in the company or the way we've been doing. You have to switch positions and think, what if I'm an investor today? I did everything I could for this customer. Now I have to get my return. Now, what am I getting back, right? How am I getting the money back of everything that I've done? And also, as the customer, right? What is the motivation for that customer to do the things that you're asking them? What are they looking to get promoted? What are the 3 bullet points they're looking to add into their resume? All of those things play a part into how you're going to manage the journey. It's not just how your product works or how much they're paying, how many people are using. Every single person in that team is going to have a different motivation, right? The CFO is going to have a different motivation from the engineer, from the main user. So you have to switch seats and think about, what is this person is looking to achieve here? What is the motivation? If you have that ability, you're going to create a personalized journey for each user, and you're going to have the ability to sit in that investor chair and get your money back at some point, right? As opposed to just giving. So that's usually one advice I give to CSMs when I coach them. And how are you dividing your time? Even creating success plans. I used to create success plans based on some of those bullet points. What is going to get you to get promoted, to get you promoted this quarter. Let's think about that and let's implement this into like what we're doing here, because I know their motivation is going to increase. They're going to do what I'm asking them to do if they know that it's going to lead to some personal win or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a couple things that I would just share on this one. I do agree with John that there is much more sophistication in the strategies that are being implemented now, and I think that's such a good thing. As John said, we're not taking playbooks and just reusing them. We're taking principles and executing them across our strategy. And so you have another level of experienced leaders and CS operations team and customer success teams as a whole, who are able to build these really solid and sophisticated customer journeys and playbooks and strategies. And I think that's a really good change over the last couple of years that we've seen the evolution and strength and sophistication in the space.
Yeah.
You know, one of the pieces that I saw in that, and I'm curious, Dave, if you saw the same thing, but you know, I see a lot of the CCO roles that come up and a lot of the VP of customer success roles that come up. It was surprising on some of them who the hires were, or actually it wasn't in the end, but sometimes it wasn't like, you know, the dyed in the wool CS person. In some cases, I actually saw these roles getting filled by, you know, former CMOs, marketing people, operations people in some cases. And I thought that was like super telling of this shift in strategy, where it's like, you know, we're digitizing more parts of the journey. And it wasn't always like lean into somebody who's done it before in customer success. It was like, hey, no, we've got to reinvent the wheel a little bit because our customer base needs these things. And yeah, it wasn't always CS leaders who got those roles. Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. I'm not sure. Certainly, like for CS leaders, it's hey, take cues from what's happening in spaces like, you know, what Delta Airlines is doing, what they're doing in marketing, because those are the skills that maybe like we don't have and are part of like the modern CS skill set.
Yeah, I've talked about that recently, of this concept of like the CS leaders need to be business leaders first, and who happen to be world-class customer success leaders as well. And that's a really important concept. And if as we continue to develop the broad skill set across the organization, that will just make us better leaders. But in the meantime, having non-traditional, I don't know if it's non-traditional or just leaders coming from other functional backgrounds, gives us this new perspective and these new ideas so we're kind of that allows us to get out of the echo chamber that we are sometimes in as a customer success community. So I think that's a good change. I think both. You see CS leaders becoming leaders in in other parts of the organizations, and you see other leaders from different parts of the organizations come in within customer success.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Funny thing. So, Brad, I emailed you this morning, and I was like, "Shoot, I'm double booked." And the person I was double booked with was somebody who's on that journey. You probably know her too, David. Is Sarah Acton over at Bill.com. I think with Brad a lot, right? But yeah, non-traditional route, but she's the new CCO at Bill.com, which is, you know, a pretty amazing company.
Yeah, that's great. Shout out to Bill. My two daughters work there as event marketers.
That's right. Yeah, that's the connection too.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway.
Well, that was a very egalitarian way, Dave, of saying, of not othering all the other people, because I'll just other them, like those non-traditional people, those others that are coming in. No, but I think it's a great point, and I think that I really liked your point, Dave, about trying to help CSMs become business leaders, like just round out that. And let's take a transition into kind of this next question I want to ask, which is, you know, part of 2024, we've already kind of touched on it. John's talking about the CCOs that he's noticed that are getting hired. But what about the labor market of 2024? Like looking back on it, like how was CS impacted? And then, I mean, if you want to prognosticate about 2025, that's fine too. But yeah, like what did we see in 2024? Because I know from my perspective, working with individual job seekers and helping them, I think that's just been a challenge because either, especially in the leadership, it seemed like there was a lot of leadership turnover. And, you know, I I try not to stir the pot, but sometimes I do. I mean, that I guess that's what happens. But it's called beware of the roaming like VP, and it's the people that what worked at last company, this playbook's going to work at the same company. And they're very dogmatic about this is the way it has to be done, and their confidence is very high, and then it just doesn't work out, and perhaps there's a change in leadership there. That's something that kind of I observed, but I'm curious, what does the panel think of how the labor market was in 2024? Maybe something we learned about it or observations.
I think I'll maybe start real quick. I thought the labor market was kind of nuts the last couple of years. In that, unfortunately, we had a lot of turnover across all of SaaS as the economic headwinds came in, and so what we ended up seeing is a lot of excellent talent on the market. Because they were caught in a difficult situation. A lot of the layoffs were not due to performance of the individuals. They were due to the performance of the companies, or just the companies taking preemptive action to be able to be in a good spot, to be more profitable. And so as a result, you had really, really good talent on the market, and a lot of it. So much so that, like many of us, when we were posting job recs out there, getting hundreds of candidates, to the point where you can't even, there's no way you can even look at it, and you have to really go by word of mouth or people that you know, just because of the flood of talent. So my heart just really went out to so many good people who were just caught at the wrong place at the wrong time. But there was a lot of great talent for others to pick up and really amplify and improve their team.
I would say I agree with that for the most part. I think there was almost like a bell curve of talent. And I think like in the middle, like Dave was saying, there's like this incredibly strong, experienced people who had to be ultra competitive to get these limited jobs. I also think too, like, we like go back one phase behind when all the layoffs happened. We were at like, peak hiring, right? Every company was hiring so much. And I think that there was maybe folks who got their foot in the door in customer success because it could be a place where you didn't need to be as technical. It could be a more junior role. And again, I really feel for these folks, but like in another environment, they might not have found their way in the door into the companies in the first place. And so now all of a sudden you move to the layoffs, the shift, it's ultra competitive. It's really, really hard for those people to compete. Maybe they were more junior in their career. Maybe they didn't have the technical aptitude, things like that. And so I think like we're still in that environment where there's folks who have some customer success experience, but the up-leveling gap that they need to do in order to get back in to, the desired seat that they want in a technology business is even bigger now. And so I would just say like we just all, like all of us, we have to work even harder, unfortunately. And that's, it's hard to say because the last couple of years have been kind of tough, but the reality of it is there's real scarcity still. And you just like going to conferences, being part of, community groups, taking things like Pavilions course, like those are just like necessary requirements right now. Everybody's got to kind of hit the gym to keep up leveling.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I run like 2 job seeker groups in 2 different communities. And one thing that I hear a lot is like a lot of CSMs coming back is like, well, but they went with the person that had real estate experience, that had more technical aptitude, that had healthcare experience, that companies are looking for that very specific experience. Number one, because they don't have the time and the money to train people. Number two, because there is a lot of talent in the market now. They have the ability to choose people, right? I remember years ago, it was like, oh, you're not technical. That's okay. We can train you. We can get you there
Mhm.
because, there wasn't like enough talent in the market, but now it's very different. Um, what are we seeing? I think a lot of that also were pushed by the do more with less, right? In 2024, like companies have less resources, less money. You have to do more, so you have to be very specific on what are we hiring for and what type of book of business you're taking care of. It. There's no more like that additional time of like you can learn different markets and different industries while you're here. You have to go get in the door, learn knowing all that already. So that's one thing that I saw a lot this year. And even for CS leaders, like the burnout due to that, do more with less, they had to reduce their workforce. They had to take on book of business and they had to, still train the people that are coming under them. So
Yeah, no, I think it's been tough, like John was saying. I think just there's a supply and demand, like I guess any industry, and it seems like there's definitely a lot more supply than demand. I mean, Dave, when you said a couple hundred, I mean, that's lowballing it. When I was hiring last year, I had 1,000 applicants in one day, for a senior CS role that I was hiring. So, but yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot more. So let's
Couple 100,000.
yeah, a couple 100,000. Let's talk a little bit about, say, companies that we've seen in the marketplace. And John, you have I think a unique perspective perhaps on this, that have best practices or companies you look up to, right? Companies you think that, took a step forward in CS, or companies doing financially well that are growing. What is it that you think that these companies are doing in 2024 that we could probably look at a bit closer?
Yeah, it's probably like actually what I said earlier is just around like the first principles thinking. I spent time with this guy, Frank, who actually runs like the support center, the call center for Mercury Bank. But prior to that, he was at Stripe. And we talked, for a long time just about like the Stripe post-sales journey. And then we talked about the Mercury post-sales journey, which is certainly like far more, breaching towards consumer small businesses than like traditional B2B. And I think like the theme of both is like these two incredible companies, and they're thinking like just around the lines of like, hey, like, they're not saying, hey, this is a CS playbook. They're starting with, okay, what is our customer? What does our customer need? What are the unique strengths and weaknesses of our organization? Where do we over-index on strengths? What are the weaknesses? And then how do we use all of that to serve this customer? It leans or bleeds a lot more towards like customer experience being the output than just like customer success. I think it's all integrated. Databricks is another example of that. I've got to spend a lot of time with folks at Databricks. That business is growing at an insane clip, and a lot of the playbooks or the strategies that they're using don't necessarily always resemble, every account has a CSM and the CSM does this, and they've really unbundled parts of the role as well. Renewals managers really doubling down on onboarding, professional services, components of account management in there. I think too, like, as I'm talking through that, I think like we are going through a shift in how we pay for software. If you look at the businesses that I mentioned, they have large consumption components to them.
Right.
And, one of the things that I think like we'll have to think about, just tying it back to the AI piece, is like we all got used to like a seat-based model, and we renewed on seats. That came under scrutiny when there was some massive layoffs, right? Seat-based pricing didn't work that well when headcount wasn't growing super fast. So you have to basically open up another axis in your pricing. And the companies that did really well are, the Snowflakes of the world, the Databricks of the world, the Stripes of the world that have these large consumption components on top of them. As we move into maybe this AI world, one of the interesting things that maybe could come into the spotlight is actually just like outcomes in customer success. Like we always talk about outcomes being like what we're there for. Well, imagine a world where like AI can like deliver on those outcomes, or we can like tie what we're doing to like an output that happens in the business. How do you price around that? So I think, the companies that I like really admire are the ones who are just like, stripping it right back to like, what are like the first principles here, and how do we design a post-sales motion that delivers on that? And I think like there's so much nuance after the initial logo is sold that just requires like really multifaceted thinking.
Yeah, and I think just to quickly follow up on your point, the companies that you listed there, John, like Databricks and Snowflake, I mean, look at where they sit in the tech stack too.
Yep.
I think a lot of these back-end data companies, they're, they have a lot of growth because, a lot of people are using them, right? These are huge enterprise, and where they sit in the tech stack, I think definitely affects perhaps how you think about customer success and even the strategy. Because when you said Frank, I thought you were going to say maybe Frank Slootman, and we all know what he said in his book. And I was be like, John, you need to work Frank back into the pro CS side, but it wasn't that Frank. So,
but if you think about Snowflake, like we can go on that. It's like it's actually a pretty customer centric company overall.
Yeah.
Small C customer success is certainly king over at Snowflake.
Oh yeah. Yeah, did he note that in his book? Second edition, Frank, if you're going to listen. No. But yeah, they have a very, very large team and a very large budget that goes towards post-sale support. So
I think they just label things differently, right? Like John was saying, like they're not just labeling things the way it is customer success. They're just labeling different, like the post-sales team, like all account managers, the technical account managers.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave? Have any comments about that?
About Frank Slootman?
Sure. You want to talk?
A little of both. I mean, certainly I think his overall strategy is like, how do you embed the, lowercase customer success throughout the entire organization, across the entire journey? How do you make sure everybody in the company is focused on customer success, not just an org? I think that philosophy is there. I do also agree, kind of like Brad with you, that Snowflake is a very, very sticky platform, very different than some. And it's critical to businesses. I think one of the things that just the key point here is that I'll point out is like right now, over the last couple of years, we are seeing this concept of tool consolidation,
right,
expense reduction, team consolidation. And so while we've had a lot of adversity because of that in SaaS, it's actually, we should be much stronger because of it. Mm-hmm. So if your product is not one like Snowflake that is super sticky and demonstrates value, you're not going to survive, because you're going to be cut out, you're going to be consolidated, you're going to be replaced with something else. And so that burden on all SaaS companies and for CSMs to really help demonstrate the value in a tangible way is really critical now, more than ever. And I think that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. The adversity we've had has been painful, but we've had a lot of good come out of it, in that we should be much stronger, and we should be more solid on the first principles, as John said.
So let's Saster and Jason came up earlier in the call, and I actually want to round out with this last question here. So Jason's quite active on YouTube and making content, and I've done a reaction actually to one of his videos, which was good. Seems like a nice dude. Never met him in person, but he was having a conversation. I can't remember exactly who, it escapes my mind, but he was having a conversation recently, and he kind of sprinkles in the customer success. It's not the topic comes up, but something he said Oh, let me go back actually with he had Nick Meta on from Gainsight at the early beginning part of the year, and I think he was trolling Nick when he said, "Hey Nick, when can we start getting some more customer success?" Because, and then Jason went on to talk about how, hey, kind of ever since CS now sits more under these sales, organizations, or reports to a CRO or VP of sales, has become more commercially driven. My question is, have you observed? I personally think where I stand on it is there's always a trade-off, right? So if you're going into every conversation being like, how do I get some more money out of it, even if I'm very sophisticated and nuanced, I think everyone's BS meter is pretty high, and they can kind of see. And I think Jason has the platform and the visibility in the space where he can make a joke out of it, right? But he said in his podcast, he was like, the CS experience has never been worse, right? And that's one data point. But I just want to see, like, I mean, Dave, you run a company.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
what are customers? John, you work with like Priscilla works. What do you guys think about? Is that a trade-off real, or what is Jason just one data point, or what's going on?
I know Jason. John knows Jason well. I Priscilla may as well. John is a fan of customer success. Or excuse me, Jason is.
Big
Yeah.
fan.
At the core, he's a fan. He's an advocate. He's a promoter.
Right.
I think, and I've watched it over the years, he's had a brutal customer success experiences there. And it has been this concept that it's unacceptable for us to do. He's calling us out for good reason. There shouldn't, and this is a generalization. Not everybody does it. These are isolated incidents, but his experience is, I never hear from anybody until at renewal, and then at renewal they jack the price up significantly, which is I personally don't think that's the norm at all. I think he's unfortunately had a string of bad luck. But I think the call out is there, is like, as I said before, is we need to show our customers that we care at the 99% of the time, the rest of the 99. And then when we go in that 1% to go to get an expansion or a renewal, we've got that credibility. And CS teams should be the best solution sellers out there. If they do it right. And I do think that there have been some teams that have been commercialized, if you will. They've been turned into account managers, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's who we really are. I think Jason's just trying to prove a point, which is a good point to prove, that we got to make sure that we don't sway too far in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, I called him out in the comments, said, name names, Jason. I'll get in contact with you, but he didn't reply to my YouTube comment, sadly. Go ahead, John.
But like, consider this. Okay, it's Friday night. Your platform goes down. You get to make one phone call. You calling your AE or you calling your CSM? Who's going to pick up the phone?
Well, I always picked up the phone, but that's me. But
right.
yeah,
you know what? I tell you, like 9 times out of 10, the AE is going to pick up the phone before the CSM because they're compensated on it, right? They're like, oh my gosh, this could be the call that makes my quarter, right? And so I experienced that like time and time again in the vendors that I worked with, and sometimes even in my own business when I was running customer success at Motive. And so I think, like, I don't know, sometimes I think like that's one of the things we get so dogmatic on too, is like CS can't talk dollars and cents. We need to, have a Switzerland. And I think sometimes like we have to be honest with ourselves. It's like the financials, the economics of a deal matter. And that does drive, outcomes in a lot of cases because there's real dollars attached to it. So yeah, I agree with Dave. Like, I think Jason's had some really bad experiences, and sometimes like, even the best CS organizations, when they get behind, can be guilty of dialing for dollars. But on the whole, I think like that's a component to up level all CS, where like you have to be, very honest with yourself about like why we're in this business relationship in the first place.
Yeah, what do you think, Priscilla?
I agree. I think you need to have the strategy like from day one to the end. You can't just be shooting in the dark, right? Like as a CSM, but it starts from the top. A lot of organizations don't believe in CS, don't know what they're doing. It comes like from the background. So the motivation for the CS team also then is different. Like what I said, like what's motivating the customer to do what you're asking them. It's the same for CS teams, right? Like what's motivating them to do the right thing, to go the extra mile. It starts from the top. Like if they know, like what John mentioned, like if they're being compensated, a lot of CS teams don't get compensated at all, right? So what's the motivation behind? You have to like take two steps back and think about how do we designing CS orgs to succeed, not just to punch the card and get their salary,
Yeah. Yeah, the compensation piece. I know we've talked about that on the show. It's so big. My very first time I was director of customer success, I was at a startup of 11 people. And me and the sales director, we split the compensation 70-30 each way. So on new sale, I got compensated. And then on the renewal, he got compensated to 30%. I got compensated 7%. Anytime I went on vacation, guess what always happened? I got it, bro. I mean, I think that the compensation piece is really tough, but I think that, I mean, go to a CFO and start, or go to a sales or organization or a sales leader and say, oh, we're going to start messing around with compensation, and you're not going to get a Christmas that year. So it's going to be tough. So
to Dave, you wrote one of the best pieces on compensation ever, probably in like 2014, 15, and I don't know if it's still up there, but I had it bookmarked.
It is.
What's your compensation take? Tell us, Dave.
It was, yeah, it's actually some of the best content still today that people find. It was just early. I'm a big believer in like compensation can be the best way to galvanize collaboration with sales, or it could be the worst. And people overlook that often. And so I do believe that there should be fair compensation. I always tell a similar story. One of our leaders at Adobe, one of our CSMs, was taking care of Vodafone globally, and they did this massive renewal, and the sales rep basically got a yacht out of it, and the CSM got a dinghy, but the CSM did all the work throughout the year. The sales rep was there very level. So I do think that if you're going to find a way to compensate, try to do it in a fair way that helps the sales and CS teams collaborate effectively.
When I think, Dave, that actually compensation model for those companies that are young enough starting out is a strategic advantage, because you don't have to, overturn the apple cart for how you try to compensate in order to, because I've talked to a lot of, we'll just say people that work at, I call them dinosaur companies. I mean, we won't point out who they are, but they've been doing the same thing for forever. And we get a lot of feedback about their employee experience, and the compensation is like a huge challenge to get sales and CS to work with each other. It's, I think, to your point, Dave, either is a great benefit or it's a huge hindrance. So
how do I do the chat? We got to get Dave's content in the chat, because that's
well, it's out there. Just go to just Google client success and CS compensation plans, maybe my name, I don't know, and there you go, you found it.
Yeah, I put it in our private chat. I can't get it in the main chat.
Yeah.
Well, it's like an OG article I wrote, I don't know, 10 years ago. Who knows? But nice. hopefully it still carries weight today.
I'm saying it right now. It's as relevant now. It's probably more relevant now than it's ever been. So there you go.
Content, Dave. Making that evergreen
Thanks.
content.
Hey, I'm glad to hear somebody reads my stuff.
There you go. Well,
thanks, John. Thanks for hyping me.
There we go. Yeah, no, that I swear that was like one of the most referenced pieces of content in my whole career. I went back to that again and again. There's two of them. Your blog post on compensation, and then Nello Franco, if you know Nello, he wrote a really good post on onboarding a long time ago. But those are the the two main chapters in my CS resource book.
There you go. I'm honored.
Man, Dave, making that evergreen content. Good job. I'm gonna have to read it. I haven't read it. I feel like I've missed out after that endorsement from John. Well, panel, it's been great. Let's I'm glad everyone was able to come, and it's been a great call. I know I've gained a lot of insights from it. Why don't we just go around and tell everybody where people can connect with you and learn more about what you're doing. You can go first, Priscilla. Go ahead.
I'll start. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I do have Latinos in Success website as well, and my personal website. But the fastest way, you can send me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely reply. If you want to book a call, I'm happy to do it. And yeah, you can join the community if you're Latino or not. We have a lot of allies, so it's not just for Latinos. We have a lot of events, a lot of workshops, fireside chats. It's been really cool, and we have more things coming in 2025 mentorship program. It's been an amazing journey, and it's been so fulfilling seeing people grow and continue to connect throughout the community. So it's been one of the best things I've done in 2024 for sure, and I'm very proud of it, the community. Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, find out more about the community and about everything else that I'm doing. And thank you for having me, Brad. I'm so honored to be here. And of course, with Dave and John, I love those guys. I love everything they do. And I'm so proud of everything that you guys are doing, and you, Brad, as well, building the community and connecting all of us.
Go ahead, John.
Well, you got to come out to a meetup. So we're going to have, I guess, schedule. So we're going to be at Pear VC in February. We'll announce this soon. So in San Francisco, then we've got a couple planned in New York. We'll be hosting the CCO Summit again at SaaStr Annual with Jason. So we can maybe get him on the hot seat and grill him on what needs to change in customer success. And then next fall, we'll be back in New York City with New York City Customer Success Week. So the week of October 6th. And then, just connect. I've almost declared bankruptcy on my DMs on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect, I'm slowly going to bankrupt my personal inbox. It's just John, JOHN @successvp.com. I love to hear about all of the great companies that are getting built. So if you know two founders who are in the garage tinkering away, that's what I want to hear about. And that's the best way to connect with me.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
All right. Hey, this has been a blast. Thanks for having me on, Brad. It's good to be with Priscilla and John, just two leaders that I have mad respect for. So a fun conversation today. Again, I'm Dave Blake, I'm founder and CEO of Client Success. We're a leading customer success and customer onboarding platform with our acquisition of Baton. So we'd love to help you out anyway, either with a solution or just with best practices or thought leadership. Or I've been in the trenches at all levels and love this space, and so happy to help any way I can. You can find me at LinkedIn, Dave C. Blake, or find us at clientsuccess.com. Thanks for having me, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you, panel, for coming on right here at time. So basically, if you know how to say "Donde está la biblioteca," I guess you can join founders or Latinos in Success. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, awesome. All right. Thank you, John, Dave, Priscilla. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Until next Friday, we're going to have predictions for 2025 show with Brittany, Christy, and Mary Ann from Salesforce. So it'll be another great show. Don't miss it. And everyone have a great weekend. Bye, all.
See you, everyone.
See
Make
ya.
some memories.
Bye.
Bye, folks.